Endel stood at the top rung of the ladder of his dreams, so much time scheming and maneuvering to this moment, the heroes within his reach and defenseless against his sleep magic. His plan was going better than he had hoped, so much so it was hard to focus on his part because his minions were putting on quite the show. They had so far managed to hold their own against the heroes, who were monstrous beings in their own right. Dare he say, his minions may actually be winning this fight, breaking their way through to the core of the enemy's territory to their most holy shrine and smashing it before their eyes. Everything was for this moment right here. The soul-crushing defeat only he could have brought upon them. Even the human spearman Robert was surpassing expectations, relying completely on magical items possessing no magic of his own. It pained Endel somewhat that none of his companions could leave this place. So much time spent finding beings so beaten down by the cruel nature of this world that he could turn them to his will, befriending them and cultivating their trust and loyalty, convincing them he was a noble figure trying to save the world from of corruption and demonic possession in the hero's cathedral, turning their former convictions to hate against the only salvation this world had, the heroes chosen by the gods as its protectors. Endel would carry the memories with him forever, not just the grand deeds, but even more so the commonplace time spent traveling with them. Their deaths were not key to the plan, but a selfish wish to never see the realization in their eyes that they had been used. Out of love for them, he would let them die believing they were the true heroes, not the gullible pawns they were. The dwarf, Trock, moved with a grace one would not expect from the thickness of his stature. His shield turned every blow while the tip of his sword darted around, nearly imperceptible to the eye. The elf twins, Coley and Keeley, worked in perfect harmony, bounding forward, trading off using a barrage of spells to cover each other's advance until they reached sword range. They had nearly exhausted the enemy mage and were forcing the enemy ranger to fight them both at once. The trio of werebeasts, Bosch, Tom, and Bim, gallantly used their shield wall and halberds to hold the center of their formation, guarding the fey enchantress Shion as she shook her bone, rattle chanting so fast Endel couldn't make out the words of the song. Shion's spirit dragon soared above the battle, its attacks from above making the heroes fight on multiple fronts. Robert, sacrificing himself to give Trock an opening, they had taken down the hero knight, Blaine, breaking the enemy's center. The human healer, Janele, had pulled Robert to the rear and was working furiously to heal. The sword wound. Endel would write a poem preserving the memory of this glorious battle and their deeds. The preparations ready for the sleep spell, Endel made his way forward next to Zion behind the shield wall, carefully judging the range. One more push forward and all 8 of the heroes would be in range. With Blaine down, the heroes were leaderless and temporarily in disarray. Now was his chance. Firing spells from his staff over the shields, he tapped Bosch, urging him to push the gap. Robert was back up, attempting to recover his strange magical spear. So gallant, the quiet spearman never backed down or showed fear. He made it to the spear and was holding it by the small handle that protruded from its side, the wide, flat base of it pressed to his shoulder, advancing with the point in front of him, stabbing out at the enemy. Such an odd weapon and style. It had proved infinitely useful before, but it was a weapon for fighting at night, not in the bright light coming through the large windows and missing roof of this destroyed grand hall. Its magic was the ability to cast light from the gem affixed to the shaft near the base of the blade. The 3 werebeasts used their halberds expertly to wedge open the gap in the center of the enemy line. A little more. A little more? Yes. It shocked Endel when something unseen struck him, shattering his left leg and snapping his staff in 2. What was that, a spell? Or had he accidentally stepped into the path of the spirit dragon? It mattered not. The sleep spell was his own magic, not an item's. Using the broken staff as a cane, he pulled himself up. Gather now the weariness of ages. Ease the transition of consciousness. Throw off concern and consternation. Sleep now, the sleep of satisfaction and release. As his words echoed over the din, the sleep took them all. Wait, not all. Robert was still on his feet. The human turned toward Endel and leaned on the shaft of his spear like a walking stick. Lich, eldritch abomination. I am so glad we finally have a chance to really speak. I wish to know, do you believe in God? Not these handsome apparitions like that dragon spirit, I mean the God of this creation. Endel, do you have a relationship with God? His plan forgotten, Endel stared at the human in stunned disbelief. In his mind, he was nearly chanting, "What is happening?" This human not only resisted his magic completely, it knew his true nature, the nature of his magic. Was it taunting him? He felt a malice under the bland tone and manner it was using. Always so talkative, you can't think of a single question, Endel? The cosmos may be conscious, but I have never seen a god of creation. What care would such a deity have with me or I with it? Oh, Endel, your complete faith in yourself would be admirable if it didn't blind you to the truth. The God of this creation cares very deeply about you, Endel. So much so that they decided to not just snuff you out like a candle flame, they wanted you to learn humility before the end. His mind could not grasp how this human thought it could kill him. To a being with as little magic as this one possessed, he might as well be its god. God of creation, what nonsense. His mind racing so hard, it didn't register as a threat when the human moved, holding its spear in that odd way with the butt against his shoulder. A small flash of light from the end of the spear shaft happened at the same moment a loud snap rang in Endel's ear. He looked down in surprise to see his left arm lying on the ground at his feet, severed just above the elbow. The spear flashed again, and the tug at his right arm nearly spun him around. His mangled arm was still attached, but barely. Endel heard the snap again as he fell forward to the ground, unable to protect his face. Both of his thighs were broken. The magic gem on the spear had done nothing but light their way in the dark. How had the human hidden its true power? I bet you are really confused by now. I'm going to take a guess and say yes. I hid this weapon's true power from you for years. I risked my life many times to keep this secret from you. I bet your next question is how could you not feel its magical power? You commented on the power of the flashlight being so small that you couldn't detect it. I agreed that it was very weak. Do you remember Endel? The human's bloodlust permeated the air as Endel listened to it slowly walk closer until it stood above him, a predatory grin on its face as it used its foot to flip him onto his back. Endel tried crawling backward away from the human, but with all of his limbs crushed, it was useless. This new magic the spear possessed was unfortunate, but the wounds would heal shortly. He just needed to stall for time. The human lacked any power capable of killing him. The undead are not easy to kill after all. Maybe the human thought he could use the hero's weapon after disabling him. Endel knew it wouldn't work, though. Without your own magic, the hero's sword was just a sword. Buying time to recover would be his best option. It's not magic, Endel. It's a machine from the world where the God of this creation brought me from. My world has no magic, Endel. I know it's not your fault that you can't see how much you crutch magic. From the time people in this world are born, magic is everywhere around them. From cooking breakfast to the sleep aid before bed, every part of your life is managed with magic first and wits later. This is the reason why the technology of this world stays so pitiful, you don't even recognize this rifle as a machine. A machine? A world without magic? Endel wondered if the sleep spell had broken the human's mind. Before he could unravel any of what he heard, the human leaned on the spear and continued. Humans are the only race in my world. We have stories of elder beings and fantasies about worlds like this one, but it's fiction for us. Our lives consist of doing everything the hard way until we can figure out a machine to make it easier. We heal ourselves with medicine that we figured out how to make from nature by studying how the body works. We have dominated every beast on the planet with our intelligence. This world is populated by simpletons who just use magic to fix every problem. You would not last a day in my world. Have your wits fled you, Robert? Has the fear made you mad? You are ranting about gibberish. Humans in this world barely have any magic, but they do none of these things. You expect me to believe there is any existence where my cunning is less than a human's. Oh, you are far above the average cleaver even by our standards, but magic has denied you understanding to the point you will never grasp how simple of a creature you really are, Lich. Your centuries of scheming and training undone by a magicless human at the age of 27. The burning pain in his arms and legs told Endel his body was attempting to regenerate, but the wounds were devastating. Any of the others present would have died of these wounds already without healing magic. He felt so tired. The human loomed over him again and stuck the point of the spear against his gut. There was a flash and a bang that knocked him flat to the floor again. No question that there was now a large hole through his abdomen. Had the human stabbed him so hard and fast that he appeared not to move? No. Endel would sense the magic needed for that. Endel, Endel, Endel. I wish you could truly grasp how close your end is. I wish you the chance to look back over your life, but you can't let go of this stubborn belief in your own power. The God of this creation picked me up from a battlefield where tens of thousands lost their lives in a day. I lay on that blood-soaked ground, accepting my time had come and chose to spend those moments in reflection. I didn't mourn that I would never feel my wife's warm hand in mine. I wrapped myself in the memory of feeling that warmth. I was thankful for the life I had been given. Here you lay, being given a chance to reflect, and you are wasting it trying to salvage your failed schemes. Such a rare gift I am giving, and you slap it aside. Your arrogance is truly limitless. Is it arrogant to fear a creature who cannot defeat you? You have managed to momentarily disable me, human, but I am immortal. No matter what you do, I will rise from the dust, and vengeance will be mine for you ruining this day. I will make every human in this world suffer for your act. The human bringing the flat butt end of the spear down on his jaw shattered it. Endel's whole body was racked with convulsions of agony. Enough! I have given you every chance to humble yourself, Lich. Endel tried to crawl backward again as the human walked out of view. When it returned, it had a large cloth sack. Curiosity almost overcame his concern as he watched the human dump a white powder from the sack all over him. He recognized this sack. It was the type humans used for the flour they used to bake their bread. This powder was not flour, though. It is white phosphorus, encased in a binder. Soldiers in my world call it Willy Pete, and all fear it. Once it is ignited, nothing can extinguish it, not even dropping in the ocean. It burns hot enough to burn up iron like wood in a fire. The God of this creation equipped me with the knowledge of how to end you permanently. This will burn you to ash, and then burn the ashes to nothing. As much as I wish I could make you feel that I have to disrupt your ability to regenerate before I light you on fire. The human picked up the rifle again. Endel's mind was spinning. If this beast managed to momentarily disrupt his regeneration and burned him to ash, would he be able to recover? He was not regenerating. It had already done it, and Endel had no idea how. The horror finally gripping him that he was going to die, he began sobbing. He tried to beg Robert to stop, but his jaw had not healed at all. There it is. This is what I have lived for since the moment I met you, Endel. To see fear and humility replace that smug self-confidence. I take no pleasure in the suffering of others, but in your case, nothing pleases me more. I want you to know that when I am finished here, I plan to retire to a quiet life. I will find myself a wife and have a family. I will teach them how to overcome magic, and this world will never suffer your ilk again. Endel felt the tip of the spear prick his skin as the human placed it against the bridge of his nose. Now he could clearly see the small hole in the end of the shaft. This monster was going to hit him in the face with the magic. If he managed to survive, this would be the last image he saw for a long time. He quit sobbing and closed his eyes as a last act of defiance. If this was the end, he would choose the precise second the blackness came. Goodbye, Endel.